The last 3 rounds in my rifle were the only thing standing between me and a woman who could end a planet with a single word. Smoke rolled across the crater where my outpost used to stand, and somewhere under that smoke, a countdown was already running, one that nobody above ground could stop, not even me. My name is Daniel Ashcroft, and I was the only soldier left alive at Outpost Meridian when the sky opened up and the Calorine fleet arrived. 6 hours earlier, there had been 11 of us. Now there was just me, kneeling in the ash, watching a woman in silver and violet armor walk toward me like she already owned the ground I was bleeding on. Her name was Vesa. She was the daughter of the Calorine High Commander, and she had the kind of calm that only comes from never losing. She stopped a few feet away and studied me the way someone studies an insect they find mildly interesting. "You are the last one," she said. Her voice was smooth, almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. "Do you understand what that means, soldier?" I did not answer. My hands were shaking and I was trying to hide it. Behind her, in orbit, her fleet blocked out half the sky, hundreds of warships hanging there like a verdict already handed down. "It means your world is finished," she continued. "This outpost was the last piece of resistance on this rock. My father will be pleased. And you, little soldier, you get to be a story I tell at dinner. The last human who tried to stand in our way." I looked past her, toward the ruined bunker where my sergeant, a man named Callum Reed, had gone down 3 hours earlier and never come back up. He had told me to run. He had told me to count. I had been counting ever since, and the number in my head was getting close to something that mattered. "You should leave this planet," I said. My voice came out steadier than I expected. "While you still can." She laughed, and it was not a cruel laugh, which somehow made it sting more. It was the laugh of someone who found the idea genuinely funny. "Leave? We just won. Why would we leave a planet we conquered in a single afternoon?" "Because you did not conquer it," I said. "You just walked into a trap that has been waiting for you since before your ships even entered orbit." For the first time, something shifted behind her eyes. Not fear. Not yet. Just the smallest flicker of doubt, the kind that creeps in when a plan that felt perfect suddenly feels a little too easy. "There is nothing under this outpost," she said, glancing toward the smoking crater. "Our scanners confirmed it hours ago. A ruined reactor, some broken machinery, nothing that could threaten a fleet like mine." "Your scanners saw what Callum wanted them to see," I said. "He spent 4 years building something under this ground, something nobody outside our unit ever knew the full truth about. We were never told what it did. We were only told 2 things. Never activate it. And if the day ever came when there was nothing left to protect, let it wake up." Vessa's expression did not change much, but her hand drifted toward the weapon at her side, a small motion, almost unconscious. "You are trying to frighten me," she said. "Humans do this. You talk big when you have already lost." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe you are standing on top of the reason your father should have scanned this planet twice." She turned slightly, looking at the crater again, at the twisted metal, and the black scorch marks spreading out from what used to be our command center. I watched her calculate, the same way I had been calculating for the last 3 hours. 6 hours since her fleet arrived. 6 hours of her ships broadcasting the victory to the rest of her empire. 6 hours of her soldiers walking through a base they assumed was already empty of anything dangerous. "What is it," she asked slowly, "that you think is waiting down there?" "I do not know everything," I admitted. That was the point. Callum used to say the only weapon an enemy can never prepare for is the one they do not believe is real. We called it the array. It was never meant to win a fight in the open. It was meant for exactly this moment. A world about to fall. An outpost about to be taken. One soldier left standing with nothing left to lose, buying time by counting numbers in the dirt. I looked up at her armor and her fleet, and the calm certainty that still lived in her eyes, even now. "You did not capture an outpost," I said. "You captured a countdown. and I have been sitting on the end of it since the moment your first ship touched down." Something in her face finally cracked, just slightly. She turned fully toward the crater, toward the reactor housing her scanners had written off as harmless wreckage 6 hours earlier. 6 hours that, on a device built by a man who trusted almost no one, might mean something very different from what she assumed. Behind her, high in the sky, one of her fleet's ships flickered, a single stutter of light across its hull. It could have been nothing. It was not nothing. "You are bluffing," she said, but her voice had lost some of its certainty. "Count with me," I said quietly. "I made it past 11,000 before you decided to introduce yourself." She did not move for a long moment. Then she raised a hand and touched the side of her helmet, opening a channel to her ships above. "This is Vesa," she said. "I want a full scan of the outpost core, right now, priority 1. There was a pause, then a voice answered through her helmet, tight and confused. I could not hear the words clearly, but I saw her face change as she listened, the calm slowly draining away and something sharper taking its place. "That is not possible," she said into the channel. "Run it again." Another pause, longer this time. Her hand fell slowly away from her helmet, and when she looked at me again, the predator in her eyes had been replaced by something closer to a person, realizing the ground beneath them was not solid at all. "What did your sergeant build?" she asked, and for the first time it did not sound like a demand. It sounded like a real question. "I told you," I said. "I do not know everything, but I know this much. Callum did not believe in weapons that announce themselves. He believed in patience. He believed that the worst thing you can do to someone who thinks they have already won is let them keep thinking that, right up until the second they cannot anymore." Vesa took a step back from me, her boots crunching against the ash. Behind her, deep under the crater, a low hum began to rise, faint at first, almost gentle, like something enormous slowly opening its eyes after a very long sleep. "Order your fleet to retreat," I said, "now while there is still time." "I do not take orders from you," she said, but there was no strength behind it anymore. "You are not taking an order," I said. "You are getting a warning." The same warning Callum gave me before he went down there and never came back. He knew what waking it up would cost. He chose to pay that price anyway, because he believed some things are worth protecting, even when there is nobody left to see you protect them. The hum beneath us grew steadier, and small tremors began moving through the ground, not violent, just persistent, like a heartbeat finally finding its rhythm again. Vesa looked down at her feet, then back at me, and for a moment the distance between us felt smaller than it had all day. Two people from two different worlds, both staring at the same impossible truth. "Why tell me this?" she asked. "Why warn me at all? I came here to take everything from your people." I thought about that for a moment before answering. "Because Callum did not build this to prove a point," I said. "He built it because he hoped nobody would ever have to see it work. I would rather you leave and tell your father this world is not worth the cost, than stay and become the reason it finally does what it was built to do." She studied me for a long moment, searching my face for the trick, the lie, the trap within the trap. She did not find one because there was not one to find. I was simply tired and out of ammunition, and holding onto the last order a good man had given me before the ground swallowed him whole. Finally, she lifted her hand again and spoke into her helmet, her voice quiet now, almost careful. "This is Vesa. Order all ships to disengage and pull back to high orbit. Immediately." There was a pause, then confirmation. The hum beneath the crater did not stop, but it did not grow louder either. It simply continued, steady and patient, like something content to wait as long as it needed to. Vesa looked at me one final time, and something had changed in the way she saw me, something that had nothing to do with rank or species or the color of the sky I was born under. "You are either the bravest man I have ever met," she said, "or the most reckless. I am not certain there is a difference." "Ask me again," I said, "when the counting finally stops." She turned and walked back toward the shuttle that had brought her down, her steps slower now, less certain than they had been when she arrived. I watched her go, watched her fleet begin to climb higher into the sky above the ruined outpost, until the ships that had blotted out the sun became small points of light retreating into the dark. I sat back down in the ash, my rifle empty across my knees, and I kept counting, because Callum had asked me to, and because some promises are worth keeping even after the person who made them is gone. The hum beneath the ground continued, patient and unhurried, waiting for a day that, because of one quiet decision made in the ash, might never come again.